You're now listening to the Diversity Roundtable. I'm Pamela Xaba, entrepreneur, inclusion enthusiast, and the founder of Nonkosi Creatives with over 2 decades as a corporate HR professional. My goal is to give you insights into conversations with entrepreneurs and corporate professionals who have insightful stories of triumph and leadership. I uncover my personal journey from cultivating diversity and promoting inclusive communities. We'll also find out why building a prosperous society is vital for leadership roles. Subscribe and get ready to rise, lead, and help define the spirit of South African excellence. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Pamela Xaba, for the Diversity Roundtable. I am so excited today. I am so blessed. But first and foremost, we are still in August celebrating Women's Month. I have been so blessed to have had discussions with 4 remarkable women this month who are sharing their inspirational stories, their journeys, their challenges, their wins, their joys. So today we are joined by, absolute powerhouses, and I'm not even joking with you. You'll see why as you listen to this episode today. But before I introduce them, so I just want to recap, on the topic for this theme for Women's Month, which is the ability to be. This is really coming from the podcast episode that I recorded in July with Connect HR, where I shared my journey, my joys, and my wins. And I thought, let's also then have, other women who are going to come in and talk about their journeys as well, in the context of the ability to be, how you show up, whether you're going through challenges, whether you're celebrating wins in your life, how do you just keep moving and keep going and continue to do simply amazing things in your life. So I think really without wasting time with our topic, the ability to be, let me introduce you to the fabulous Cebile, who is the HR director at Mondelez International. I am so blessed. She's a sister of mine. We've shared some moments of joys and tears, but anyway, that's a story for another day. And also let me introduce you to Jeannie Myeni. So Jeannie, thank you so much actually for sharing the panel with me at the CUT event. So Genie is a senior HR specialist at ABSA. So Jeannie Myeni, welcome so much. I am so blessed to have you as well. So our African queen through and through. So ladies, welcome. Welcome. Thank you. I think let me start with you, Cebile. So before we get into the discussion, the ability to be, just briefly, tell our listeners and our viewers, who is Cebile Xulu?
Wow, thank you, Pam, for having me. I call Pam Mobile, so I have to now juggle the Pam and Mobile. Like you said, we go way back. So I'm Cebile Xulu. I'm a simple girl from KZN. I'm a rural girl. Born and bred in KZN. I am a mom to a wonderful 7-year-old boy, Mabuto.
Yes.
I'm also a mom and an aunt to the tribe that we are raising together with my brother and his wife. So I have quite a full life with my family. But on more a professional front, I'm a leader. I'm an HR professional. Been in this space now, I think, for 23, going on 24 years. Absolutely love what I do and where I do it. So in a nutshell, that's me. But if you ask me to tell you about me, I could go on for 2 hours. So I'm going to stop there and wait for the questions.
Yes. No, thank you so much, Cebile. I'm sure we'll greatly be enriched today by your stories and your journey. But before we get into that, let's come back to you, Jeannie. Can you just then tell our listeners and our viewers, who is Jeannie Myeni?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pam. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very happy and excited to be here today.
Yes.
So Jeannie Myeni is the daughter of Me Alina Muhlaping, who was a domestic worker. I was born and bred in Vereeniging. However, my family roots are in Lesotho. My mom and dad are from Lesotho.
Yes.
So I've got a very strong Lesotho tradition that goes through my veins and through.
Yes.
My mom made sure of that as I was growing up. She said, as much as you're growing up in a suburb, in a white place, you are an African, you are a Sotho girl, and this is how you need to be.
Yes.
So I'm very proud of that. I'm a mother of 3 beautiful boys. And being the only woman in the house can be challenging at times. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I also find myself being a mother to other children who are not of my blood.
Yes.
I just have this attraction for children and young people. So I find myself surrounded by young people all the time. They even come and live with me in the house. So even though I have 3 kids at the moment, there's 7 kids in the house.
Sure.
So yeah, that's who I am. I just love people. I'm an HR professional, been in the profession for more than 25 years. Love working with people, interacting with people, and understanding how people think and how they tick. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, ladies. I think as I'm listening to both your intros and your stories, so I'm just like, one thing that I'm taking out is that I'm sitting with the real naturals here, as far as young people and children are concerned, because I think really for a woman to raise her own kids and also raise other kids that are not hers, be it like your nephews and your nieces and whatnot, and even just children gravitating towards you, it just basically says that you've got a big heart. It basically says that you are a natural through and through. And it's such a blessing, anyway, because, obviously children come from God, but to just be surrounded by those young and brilliant minds, so it just says something about you as a person holistically. So thank you for that. And I'm really looking forward to unpacking your rich journeys then in that context. But then to our viewers, let's get into it. So today's topic really is the ability to be, as I've explained earlier, that, it's a series for Women's Month. What does it take for women like yourselves? You've been in the professional space for over 20 years, and I'm sure you've had, a great stories of joys, but you also have some challenges. And also the reason I keep reinforcing that the reason why I started this podcast in the first place is that I really wanted to understand, the stories of other people, to say, okay, looking at my own story, like some of the things that I'm going through or that I went through, are they really unique to me? Mm-hmm. Or what are the stories of other people, so that I can learn from them, so that I can find healing from them, so that we can also teach our young people, right, to learn from our stories, so that maybe sometimes they don't make the same mistakes that we may, even if they do, but then they know how to overcome those challenges, right? So let me stop, right here before I start preaching and listening to my own voice. But I think then to you, Cebile, so really, what does the ability to be mean to you, both on a personal level as well as on a professional level?
It's such a powerful topic that you've brought us here for, Pam. And as I was thinking about what I want to say, I found myself challenged, right, about what exactly does this mean for me. I think we walk around taking things for granted, thinking we know ourselves, and then you get a topic that says the ability to be. What does it mean for you? Where I started when I was thinking about this topic is, I think for me, it's important to first understand yourself, who you are. I don't think you can be if you do not know who you are, first and foremost. So my journey has involved a lot of, self-awareness,
Yes.
Really understanding who Cebile is. You know, what are the things that bring me to my best? What are the things that pull me down?
Yes.
What are the self-limiting behaviors that I have about myself?
Yes.
What are the things that I don't want to confront, that I know deep down, but I don't want to confront, that could be limiting me and my ability to just show up as my best authentic self or truest self. So I think that for me was quite important when I was reflecting on this topic. So it basically means for me showing up wherever I am in a way that I am comfortable, that this is my best foot that I'm putting forward. Whatever that looks like to other people. I've come to a point where I understand that people will receive me however they want to receive me, but I must always know that what I'm presenting to whoever or to the world is what I'm comfortable, that this is a true reflection of who Cebile is, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, thank you so much, Cebile, because I think, you know, understanding who you are, even on a spiritual level, you know, whatever that means for you as an individual is very important, right, in terms of how you then show up going forward. Thank you so much for that. So let me come back to you, Jeannie. What does this mean to you, the ability to be just looking at your space holistically?
Yeah, I think Cebile has touched on a very important piece of information around to know who to be is to know where you come from. Know your roots. If you don't know where you come from, you can never know who you are now or where you are going to be. And I think it's one of the lessons that my mother taught me at a very early age when I turned 13. She packed my things and she sent me off to Lesotho. And I was there and I had to fend for myself. There were times where I didn't have food. I had to go to the market and scratch around for rotten tomatoes and stuff like that to find something to eat. It was at that point also at a young age, at the age of 13, where I was first raped. And all those things, as painful as they were, they made me the woman I am today. As tough as it was, as painful as it was, as lonely as I felt at that point. But I never had the anger towards my mom to say, how could you have done this to me? Why did you leave me there? How could you have let people do these things? Because out of that, I became a different person. I became a very strong person at a very young age. So for me to be who I am today is because of where I come from, the hardships that I've come from. And what I like to do is to share my story, and I'm happy to be here today, is to share my story with young girls, to say to them, never give up in life, regardless of how difficult it is. Always remember that you're a human being. God brought you here for a purpose. There's a purpose why you are here. Never give up. That is for me the ability to be. I'm
actually just really moved now. I'm really moved, Jeannie, because I think you've actually then touched on what was going to be my next question, which I will then still ask, because I would also like to hear also, you know, what would Cebile's response be in this question. But the question really was, you know, what has been the significant challenge that you have faced in your life and how did you overcome it? You know, because then I'll just continue this with you because you've touched on it. And then, you know, and then I've got a lot of, you know, prompting thoughts that, okay, how did that happen? What was, you know, I'm trying to imagine, you know, because I'm sure, obviously, you know, GBV being Women's Month is actually a very serious social ill, you know, in our communities. And, you know, how do young girls that find themselves in those situations being violated actually then overcome? Or how can they overcome this type of experiences? So if you don't mind, you know, so because obviously this has been something very significant, and how did you deal with it, and what has that done to you in terms of, you know, your psyche and the person that you then evolved into, and who you are now? Yeah.
So, sure. 'Cause, 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 it was, like I said, it was not easy. I think what kept me going and what keeps me going up until today is knowing where I want to be.
Yes.
Knowing that the life that I came out of, seeing my mother being a domestic worker, working hard, being ill-treated, I didn't want to be in that space.
Yes.
And that's what gave me that willpower to say, no matter how tough it is, I don't want to be that person.
Yes.
I want a better life for myself. These are the dreams that I have.
Yes.
And which is why I always encourage young people now to have a vision board, because it helps you to have something to work towards.
Yes.
It gives you that dream and it makes it alive.
Yes.
So you are able to say, I want to be there. Regardless if people take advantage of me or what they do to me, but this is who I want to be. And I think also a big thing that played a big role in my life is having faith in God, to say, God brought me here for a reason. And He won't let me go now until I have done what it is, the purpose that He has brought me into this life to achieve. That is what has kept me going. And that is what I try and tell other girls to say, stay strong, have that dream, see that future that you want.
Yeah.
And only look forward to that.
Yeah.
Almost put like ama club,
Yes.
Don't look around. Focus on where you want to be.
Yes.
And everything else will fall into place. It won't be easy. It never is easy.
Yes.
There will be times where you'll think that God has left me or my ancestors have left me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you hold that trophy,
yes,
or you graduate and you wear that jacket, you'll know that I've achieved it. I've done it. Yeah.
So much courage.
Definitely.
So much courage. I think, let me come back to, thank you so much, Jeannie, for just really opening up your heart, right, as far as that is concerned. So, Cebile, a significant challenge that you faced in your life, and how did you overcome that? And just reflecting and looking back and thinking, wow, you know what, I am me, I am Cebile, but I can't believe that I went through that, I'm still standing. So that's the gist of the question.
Well, I think my challenges will pale in comparison to Jeannie's very moving story. I think it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to share openly as she has some of the things that she's gone through. And I mean, I'm definitely moved and inspired by the amount of courage that you know she's demonstrating. So thank you for that. But life can be a series of challenges. So I don't know how to capture a significant challenge without necessarily getting into kind of a victim mode of saying, oh, this happened to me. And I think this is sometimes the struggle, right? When you want to share your story with people, to say, I'm not saying feel sorry for me. I'm saying this is what I've been through, this is what I've learned, and perhaps that story can help somebody else to also overcome what they're going through. And we don't all have to go through the same thing, right? But I mentioned that I was born, in a rural place where basically nothing grows. Yeah. My father was a teacher, so he had good education, but he was a traditional man. Stopped my mom from pursuing her teaching dream. My mom became a housewife, so she became a homemaker. It wasn't easy. I grew up in an abusive home where, us being beaten on a daily basis was like normal, right? Yeah. Seeing my mom endure that kind of physical abuse. And I think there was also financial abuse. When I think about it, I don't know what my dad did with his money, to be honest, because we lived in a mud house. Yeah. That sometimes when it rained, I don't know if you remember the 1987 floods. Yes. Our house had holes. Oh my. And we lived for a couple of years with those holes and being patched here and there. The roof would leak. So I think there was also, I was young at that point to understand, but now I know that it wasn't just physical abuse. It was also financial abuse, and I think there was emotional abuse. Yes. There was a lot that was happening in that home. Yes. That as a child, you don't quite understand. But as I grew and I got older, I started being very clear on the types of things that I'm willing to accept and the things that I'm not willing to accept. And the things where I have control, I can definitely determine that this is not what I'm going to accept, and this is not the environment that I want to be in. But I think that also informed my strong sense of justice and fairness. That I think people that I work with will attest to, that if there is an injustice and I find out about it, I'm going to do everything in my power to correct it if it's within my power to do that. If not, I'm going to talk about it so that people know that this cannot be happening. But I think that for me was the first really significant childhood challenge that I can name. I think the second one that I think it's the first time that I'm actually talking about it is growing up in that village where we had faction fights, right? So people were just killing each other for fun. You know, there would just be somebody shot this one in Johannesburg, and that now comes down to the village, and suddenly people are shooting each other, and there's a whole war that's broken up. I was moved from home when I was 13. I had finished standard 7, which is grade 9 now. And I didn't actually finish the year at the school. I had to be moved to live with my aunt for 2 months. And then from there, I was moved to live with the Mfega family in Stanger. They were not my relatives. I didn't know them from a bowl of soap. But I was being hidden, because there was an attempted kidnapping that was being planned so that my dad could stop facilitating the peace conversations in the community, because people are obviously making money from the gun trade, right? And also from killing other people, you get paid. You know, shoot Pam, will pay you.
Inkabi.
Exactly. So unfortunately, they thought, you know what, they were scared of him. They also believed that I don't know what to say in English, but they believed that he couldn't be shot. So they felt that the easiest thing to get him to stay out of these peace negotiations was to do something to me and harm me as his favorite daughter, right? I was living with him at that time, and my mom and my 2 siblings were living at my mom's maternal home, because by that time my parents had separated. So moving at that young age and not living with my mother, and going and living with a strange family that I didn't know from a bar of soap, also had an impact in the young woman I would later become, without the guidance of my parents, without my mom. But it made me strong, because I had to also learn to live with people that I don't know, people that are different, in a different household, different sets of rules. And I think I've become so adaptable now because of those experiences. You can put me anywhere, and I will be fine. You can put me, you know, in the most difficult environment, and I'm going to find my way out of that. And I've taken that even to my career, where I can adapt to different environments, to different races, to different cultures, to different people. Because from a young age, I was thrown into the situation where suddenly I was away from home. I was scared. I was terrified. Then I was exposed to a whole lot of things as a result of that, which I'll talk about some other day. But those two, I think, really stand out as my earliest shaping experiences that have molded the woman that I've now become.
No, ladies, I'm really, really inspired, because everyone has a story, right? And I think you sharing your stories and your background up to this point, and it's just really to say to our young people out there that, you know, irrespective of your background, no matter how difficult it is, you know, it's really about your choices. You know, it's really about how you decide to show up and taking the lesson from whatever experience, you know, that you go through, and just really be clear about what it is that you want to become. And here today, then, I mean, hearing Cebile's background, you know, then she is now the HR director of the multinational organization, listening at Genie, you know, she works for one of the big 5 banks in our country. So, ladies, I'm really, really, truly inspired. And I must say that I'm really in the right space, being Women's Month, to say, you know what, I think I'm on the right track, because there's just so many, many lessons that I'm taking from you today. So, but while we're talking about young people, Jeannie, so I think let's also talk about the value of mentorship, right? Because as much as you have this background in how you grew up and whatnot, and then you don't just become, your job title, or you get all these titles and whatnot, so try now and paint the journey. What is the value of mentorship? Right, in your growth, just talk about, mentorship for you and your growth in your journey. What has it done for you, and who are some of those people that when you look back, you say, what, I'm grateful that I met this person at this point in my life, because if I hadn't met this person X who became a mentor, a coach, or person that I look up to, I wouldn't be able to go through certain doors, So let's talk about that, because to Cebile's point, it's not so much about what I went through, look at me now. It's like telling the story, but then let's move on to say, okay, I'm here now today because I was mentored by X and this is what has done for me.
Yes. No, that's very true. Yes. I think mentorship is one of the things that really shaped who I am today. And it started at an early age when I finished matric. At the time, I didn't have money to go to varsity, so from the teachers within the school already, they saw potential in me.
Yes.
So they found me my first job as a receptionist at the school. And that's where my career started.
Yes.
And by just doing your job, showing up, doing what you need to do, people see you.
Yes.
And they want to impart their knowledge onto you.
Yes.
From becoming a receptionist, I became an HR secretary, which is where my HR profession started.
Yes.
I was seen by a divisional HR director who said I needed a PA. Yes. Can you come and work for me? And she taught me from there. Before I even got my formal studies,
yes,
already that's where my HR career started.
Yes.
And her name was Susan De Vet. I remember her very well.
Yes.
And because she saw that potential in me,
yes,
we did the qualifications, but
yes,
she groomed me. By the time I left my first job, which was at Cebile Engineering,
yes,
I worked there for 5 years.
Yes.
I had been promoted 3 times without applying for a role because of the people who helped me and lifted me up and brought me to where I was.
Yes.
When I left for my first banking job, I was already in a good space. But even there, I found a leader who was willing to hold my hand and walk with me through this journey and show me how it is done.
Yes.
So mentorship is immensely important in any career. Finding that person who sees the potential in you and where you just click and they hold your hand and they just lift you up.
Yes.
Especially for us as women and African women in the corporate environment.
Yes.
That's what we need to be for each other. We need to hold each other and lift each other up.
Yes.
And mentor the young people and bring them up with us. And not have any gripes or anything to say, this one's got a PhD, I've only got a degree. It's not about that.
It's not a competition.
You're talking about something else now.
It's not. It's about let's lift each other up.
Yes.
And yes, mentorship definitely is ideal in career. Yeah.
I think, building on what Jeannie said, when I take a different angle on being receptive to being mentored. I think we talk a lot about, when young people come into the workplace or as women, because mentorship is not only for young people, it's for all of us. I still have mentors till this day. At different stages of my life, I've needed a different kind of mentor, a different kind of sounding board, a different kind of person that can tell me what I need to hear without fear. And without, stroking my ego or anything like that. And they've come in different shapes or forms. But I think to build on what Jeannie was saying, there is something to be said about how open are we as human beings to being mentored by other people. I think sometimes we miss the opportunity because we look at that. We say, oh, but, what can I hear from this person who doesn't have a degree, right?
Yeah.
Or this person who is lower in the organization than I am.
Yes.
What is it that I can learn from this person? I think for me, the advice I can give to anybody looking to take their career to the next level or just looking to be good at where they are today. Because, also sometimes we're too focused on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that we don't really pay attention to being good at what we are doing today.
Now, yeah.
So what I would add is check if you are open to all the possibilities that mentorship presents to you.
Yes.
Because sometimes I work a lot with young people as well.
Yes.
I'm a mentor and a coach in my spare time, which I do for free most of the time, depending on whether I have time or not.
Yes.
I find that people seek out mentors
Yeah.
or they seek out this development support when there's a problem. Now I want my next promotion. So can I get a mentor now who's going to help me get this promotion? For me, and I know different strokes for different folks, for me, that doesn't really always give you the best results.
Yes.
I believe that you should look at mentorship in a holistic manner. Sometimes that mentorship relationship might not necessarily give you your next promotion.
Yes.
It might help you with a personal struggle.
Yes.
It might help you with you planning your future in another aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And I don't believe you should wait until you get to that point where you're like, okay, now I need to make it a move or I need to make a decision. It should become part of your arsenal of weapons or tools that you have in your bag to help you grow as a human being, not only because you want the next promotion. I think that's how I've approached mentorship, and that's the advice I can share with other people, that don't wait until you now need to make a decision or you need to make a move. I think just lastly, looking for mentors in the organization now, specifically where you work. It always comes across as a little bit not authentic, and because mentorship relationships, in my view, need to be organic. And I know that I'm speaking contra to some of the mentorship programs that we design as HR people, right? So I'm not talking about those that are structured, that we design and we try to get people into the habit of being mentored. I'm just talking generally, if you are a person who thinks that way and you want to grow your career, look for mentors. The mentors are not only in your organization, they are external as well. But also, mentors don't have to sit down with you every time you need a conversation. There are people who are my mentors that I've probably met once in my life. That I follow. I read what they write. I follow their careers. I watch what they say on LinkedIn, and I pick up nuggets there that help me build my own journey. And then I've got people that I can connect with on a daily basis. So it's not always that a mentor must be somebody that you can touch, that you can talk to, that you can have coffee with every whatever. Sometimes just watching the people that have careers that you would like to emulate, or people that inspire you from a distance, that is also mentorship.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, because there's just so much information out there, right? So I think it's also very important that people know that really how to get access to information. To your point, there are so many platforms. So it's just really about who you follow. We all have smartphones. People are on social media, Facebook, TikTok, X now, and whatnot. And then, so it's just really about, who do you follow? What content do you consume, right? And because I think for young people and entrepreneurs and anyone really in the HR space, there's really no longer an excuse to say I didn't have, times have changed so much. There's really not an excuse to say, oh, I didn't know, so it's very important also to build relationships, because I think to your point, Cebile and Jeannie, is that it's all about relationships as well, and not wait for things to land on your lap, but then really being intentional to say, look, this is my plan, this is where I want it to be. Who do I need to tap into in terms of getting more knowledge and whatnot? So obviously your mentors and coaches are doing, or they've done a great job. But I think you've done a great job yourselves to actually then to say, look, this is me, this is where I am. But irrespective of everything else, this is how we keep going. But then there's also the issue of mental health.
Yes.
That we need to talk about. That we talk about. So I think, Cebile, just maybe we'll continue with that, and then I'll come back to Jeannie. Just talk about, mental health. What does it mean for you? What keeps you motivated? And when you have those low moments, it's like, I'm burning out and I'm just, so what does this mean for you?
I wish I had a perfect answer for you and the viewers and the listeners. I think for me, it's really just about knowing where I am at a particular point in time, being in touch with my body, being in touch with my mind, being in touch with my heart, just knowing what's happening and constantly checking in with myself. Am I still at my best? And when I'm not at my best, what does that look like? Because I think sometimes with you spoke about how much information we are consuming, right? So what I found is, if I'm on social media too much, I experience these energy dips because I'm consuming everybody's problem, you know, all of the bad news from around the world. I am consuming that, and then now I'm finding that I draw a lot of my energy from the outside environment as well, right? So I know that about myself, that I'm energized by what's happening outside of me. It could be with family, with friends, at work. Those things bring me energy. So I've had to find the parts of me that are internal, that bring me energy or that take away energy. So it's been a journey of discovery. It's been a journey of confronting things that I think maybe 10 years ago I would not have been comfortable if somebody said, oh, you've got an anxiety disorder, right? So I had my first encounter, or one that I can say, this is what it was. In 2020, I had an anxiety attack, a massive one. I locked my doors, I closed the curtains for almost 2 weeks, not going, well, we were locked down in any case. But I think it was the first time I really acknowledged that this is not something to be fearful of. It doesn't mean that I'm mad or crazy. It's part of my health. And there's something going on that I need to pay attention to. So I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder then in 2020. I think it's been there, but I never took the time to sit down and actually face it and know what it looks like, so that I don't run away from it. And when it happens, I know that it's happening. So what I do now, when it does happen, I ask for time out. Because I know that when I'm in that stage, I'm not going to show up the way that I want to show up to the world, to my family, to the people that I work with, to my friends, just to the general, world. So I know what it feels like, and I can now identify it and I can recognize it, and I am comfortable to say, I want time out because I can't deal with what's going on right now. This is what's happening to me. What I found also useful is to have a supportive environment around you. I don't think anybody's an island, right? You need other people. So again, I've got a very strong network of friends, people like yourself that I can call and maybe not call for 3 months, but when I call you, you don't ask me, hey, now, where were you all of this time? You understand that there's potentially something I was dealing with. Exactly. This life is happening. So having that, having my family is also very helpful. I'm eternally grateful to the structure that my family has put for all of us, because we are able to feed off each other. When somebody else is down, there's other people that can rise, look after the children, make sure the children go to school, make sure everything is taken care of. I've also come to a point where I'm not afraid to buy help. I think as African women, there's sometimes that thing that we want to, I'm going to do everything myself. No. There's things that I will do. There's things that I know take away from my time and my ability to be at my best. So where I can buy the help, I buy it. And I don't mean the help of having someone helping you in the house. That's one. But I've also got an app that I use to run my errands. I say, I need this done, and I send it. I pay them, and they do what needs to be done, so that I can manage my energy, and I can manage my time, and I can manage what I'm focusing on. And then it takes away so many things that can be distractions and don't enable me to pay attention to how I'm feeling and what I'm going through at a particular point in time. And then I think lastly, the work environment is absolutely critical. That you are in an environment that allows you to not be okay. And people that you work with understand that as human beings, there's just days where we are not going to be okay. And when I say that, I don't mean disappear now for 6 months, don't talk to anybody, don't report at work what's going on with you. But I think it's important to find, if you find it, like how I have found it now where I am, a place where I can say, I'm not okay. So I need time out. This is how much I think I'm going to need. And this is what I'm putting in place to make sure that whilst I'm away, the business is still going and things are still getting done. So family, the social structure of my friends, and then the work, the colleagues and the work environment where I'm at. Those three things for me have been more effective and more impactful in helping me with my mental health challenges that I've gone through, my general well-being, and my happiness, more than any pill that I could have taken. So those have been my magic potions.
Yes, because it's very important that we cultivate joy, right? I'm glad that you're talking about happiness, you know. I think I was having a discussion with a sister of mine, I think 2 weeks ago, and I was like, you know what, I'm in such a joyful space. You know, and it really it boils down to what we are talking about, to actually recognize that, you know what, because maybe in the past I did not deal effectively with some of my mental health challenges. I haven't experienced happiness in such a long time, right? So all of these things that you are saying, you know, in your professional world, family and whatnot, who is your community that they'll say, when Cebile is not okay, they will show up for you. So no, thank you so much for that, Cebile. It's very enriching indeed. So let's come back to you, Jeannie. So because I'm sure you've got, you know, very strong stories as well to tell just around mental health and how you go through that and how you deal with it.
Yeah, no, I think mental health is a very big topic, and I think sometimes it needs its own airtime.
Yeah, it does. It does. There's so much to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about and lift each other up.
Yes.
So I was diagnosed with bipolar in 2009. It was only also for me, I think it was in 2001 when I ended up for 3 weeks in a psych ward, where I was properly diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And that 3 weeks helped me because there was training, they taught you how to read your body, read your soul, understand what you're going through.
Yes.
Be in touch with yourself.
Yes.
And that is the same message that I now preach to others, to say, try and understand who you are. My son has a learning disability, but he's 22 now. He's working. But there are days where he comes to me to say to me, "Mommy, I'm not okay. I'm feeling down."
Yes.
And the important thing is to find out where that feeling down comes from. If you can identify the root of where it's coming from, that's how you'll be able to deal with it. On a small bits, you don't have to deal with it all at once, but just understanding first, where is it coming from? Why is my body feeling this? Why is my body telling me this? What's triggering this? And those are the small things that help you just to keep in touch with your body, know who you are. And once you understand your body, you understand your mind, you know what is causing whatever emotion you're going through. It helps you to deal with it better. And it brings back that happiness, because you say, okay, now I'm in content. I know what's going on. I can move on to the next thing. So yes, no, health, mental health is a very big topic. And I think there's still a big stigma out there to say when you're mentally not well, it's either yahlanya or there's something wrong with you, which is not true. And even in the workplace, to Cebile's point, if you have an understanding in prayer that understands that mental health is a thing, you know, there are days where you're not going to be okay. And it's okay not to be okay. You know, and allow you that space, give you that reasonable accommodation, which is very important. And I encourage my colleagues a lot, or my clients a lot, to say, if you're not feeling good, take time out, take 2 days, take a long weekend, go away. Get fresh air, come back, you'll be revived, you'll be a new person, you can start afresh. You
know, Pam, before you move to the next question, I just want to tell a little bit of a story, because I've been working with a couple of people, and whenever I bring the topic of therapy, you know, people frown. They're like, what? No. I mean, there's certain things we do. I like going to the spa.
Yes.
I like going for a weekend away and just taking time to be with myself.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yeah.
In my previous life,
yes,
I worked in.
We've got 9 lives, so which one?
The one before this one. Yeah. I worked in an environment which I had a great career during my stay there, but it was rough. It was rough. Very masculine environment. Lots of toxicity, and I don't want to talk about, toxic masculinity at this point.
Don't
but
get
there
me
was
started.
just
Let me
general
just listen to
toxicity
you.
all around.
Yes.
But it was a very male-dominated environment. Certain behaviors were rewarded and certain behaviors were not rewarded. And all the stuff that was rewarded was the stuff that I look back today and I think, stuff like that should not be allowed to happen. Stuff like that should not be accepted, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a long story. But what happened during that time, because I wasn't paying attention to my body, to my soul, to what was going on in my head, I was so fixated on the career and getting to the top and making my mark and proving to everybody in this organization that I'm worth it. The only person I needed to prove my worth to was myself. But there was so much validation seeking in that environment that if I didn't perform and be in a certain way, I probably would not have made it. I left at the end because I got to a point where I realized that this is not me and this is not working for me, right? Partly. But I did all of the superficial things to try and deal with my mental wellness issues and my well-being issues.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time, going out with other people instead of confronting what was happening in my head.
Trying to run away from yourself.
Yeah, I was a functional alcoholic. Because we glamorize it, but I realized that in that period, I was on a slippery slope of alcoholism. Yep. Because I couldn't control it and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Yes. But I literally, Monday to Sunday, had a drink. And that in my head, I'll be like, after this hard day at work,
let me have a glass
after that
of wine.
heated session at the leadership team meeting, after this nonsense that I've just been through with the unions, after that person came into my office and just disrespected me because I'm black or because I'm a woman or because I am Zulu or because I am this and all of these things that we go through every day, I would drink every day. I remember when I was passed up for a promotion, when it was time. Yes. And it had been communicated that you are next in line and this is going to be your job. Yes. And when it came to actually the promotion being given, my boss at the time said to me, I can't give you this role at this point because, one, you are too strong. We can't have two bulls in one crawl. Wow. I'm an Afrikaner man. You're a Zulu woman. It's not going to work. And what I'm saying is not, I'm not paraphrasing. I'm saying what was said to me, not to somebody else, right? Yes. And by the way, I think you need to do something about your hair. So my hair, I've had Afro natural hair for many years now. So at that point, I had the hair that looks like Pam's. Okay, it wasn't styled in a cut. It was just short like that, and it was my own hair. And then he said, it doesn't make you look feminine. It doesn't make you look approachable. It makes you look hard. And what I'm looking for in this job is somebody that can be a mother to the organization. So maybe, a little bit of makeup.
I don't know where to look right now.
A little bit of makeup. Sure. And, when we interviewed you, you had long braids. So I had put braids when I was interviewed. Then he said, long hair like that suits you better. It makes you feminine. And I think people would like you if you had longer hair and if you had a bit of makeup on. Now, young, impressionable, I want this executive role. I think if somebody said that to me now, I would retire because I would sue and I would sue the company for millions. But after that feedback, I drank for 2 weeks straight. that's how broken I was, and I didn't know how else to deal with my feelings, to deal with my emotions, to deal with the hurt and the disappointment and everything that was going on. I remember my friend Lumka, we went and she's like, okay, Maxulu, tell me what you want. And I was just like, bottles of this and this and this gin. It was whiskey at that time. Every day I came back from work and I would just drink and try and numb
the pain feeling,
plus the pressure of having to deliver, but feeling like you're not appreciated, like nobody sees your efforts, and fighting for everybody else, but nobody's fighting for you. So all of that was affecting me psychologically. It was turning me into somebody that I'm not. Thankfully, I grew up and I confronted my fears. And I got the help that I needed.
Yeah.
I started realizing that just as much as I've got a GP, I've got a gynae, a therapist needs to be part of the package.
Yes.
There's no shame in doing that.
Yes.
And lately, I don't need to medicate in that sense for me to feel like I can numb that pain and that trauma and that stress. I don't need that anymore. I still would have a drink, but I know that there's a period of 6 years where I was a functional alcoholic.
It is a journey indeed. You know, it is a journey, and I think, you know, Cebile, thank you for your heart, and you, Jeannie, thank you for your heart as well, both of you ladies, for just really, you know, opening up, you know, your soul, your challenges, and because this really says that, you know, life is not always a bed of roses, you know, but it's actually saying, you know what, how do I come out of this? You know, what is my support system, you know? And, you know, if I could survive that, because I don't even know how I would act if someone says that. It's like, bro, I'll punch them in the face. but that's the old me, right? So, and I think really it's this type of stories, it's this type of journeys, both of you ladies, that really says that the ability to be, that, you know, there's a lot that makes up who Cebile is and how Cebile shows up today. There's a lot that makes up who Genie is and how they show up today, because people think, oh, you know, we move around in these HR communities and then we get, you know, to speak and write articles and be there and whatnot. And when people see you, I mean, you've done a lot of these, we speak on panels and things like that. And people just, you know, young people, and some of the feedback that you get, you know, it's like, yo, Cebile is so amazing. Genie is so amazing and whatnot. But, you know, we never really get to tell the deep-rooted stories of pain, of challenges, but also of overcoming those challenges and actually get to a joyful place and get to a place, even if those challenges come, like now, it's like, bring anything on you, like, yeah, you know,
I'm ready.
Sorry for you, you know, I'm ready, you know, but thank you so much, ladies. I think we've been talking for close to over 50 minutes now. I'm also conscious of time, but I think, you know, being Women's Month, then, Jeannie, you know, what would be the words of encouragement then for, you know, women or ladies in the HR field? You know, words of encouragement, or what is it that they need to do to actually succeed in this HR space, given that how much the world of work has changed and, you know, it keeps evolving. There's a lot of things that are also happening in the social political space that are also impacting how people show up in our workspaces. And then you've got all these really ambitious young females in the HR space that want to do amazing things, and they're brilliant minds, right? And so what would be your words of encouragement to them?
I think for me, it's to never give up.
Yeah.
Like you say, life is not a bed of roses. There'll be challenges. There'll be those socio-economic factors that come in.
Yeah.
But just don't give up. Focus on the goal, where you want to be, where you want to see yourself.
Yeah.
And read as much as you can. watch podcasts, read on LinkedIn, read articles, read the things that are going to add value to your life. Not so much spend time on watching people dancing on TikTok and so on. Because our young people love that. But focus on the things that are going to add value in your life.
Yeah.
And make sure that when you do something, you do the quality is so good that you outshine everyone.
Yes.
You know, put your best in everything that you do.
Yeah.
We are going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. We're going to fall. But make sure that when you fall, you get up, you dust yourself, and you keep going. You don't look back.
Yes. Keep going, keep moving, right?
Yeah.
Because the train doesn't stop. The train of life doesn't stop. So you really just have to keep going, but also understand where your help will come from, right? So, and I actually then really want to literally read this question because I don't want to trip or rephrase it in a way that it does not mean what I want to ask. So I'll read it to you. There's no shame on that, right? So we're not on TV here. We're having a discussion. How do you envision the future for women in your industry, and what changes do you hope to see?
Wow.
Yes. I needed to read it.
You really needed to read it, but I needed to also write something to respond to it.
Yes,
I think to the powerful advice that Jeannie has just imparted to people listening or watching the podcast. So if I were to talk about how I see the future for women, I see a future where we are no longer having to fight for validation, fight for space, fight for opportunities amongst ourselves. I see a future where women embrace each other and hold space for each other, where we are not threatened by somebody else's success. But I also see a future where, as women, try and move a little bit away from there's a narrative that has been built over the years about how women don't support each other, about how women pull each other down. We even have a thing, PhD, pull her down syndrome, right?
Yes.
And we talk so much about that, and we amplify this. And I don't think it does a lot of good to some of the work that some of the women are actually doing. And I think for me, the spotlight should shift now to the women who are doing great work, who are supportive of others, who are pulling each other up. We need to spotlight those ones than the ones that we think are pulling other people down. I think when we start shifting, we'll find that there's actually a lot of women out there who are not having this pull her down syndrome, who want to see each other rise, who want to pull other people up. So I think even in how we talk, I would like to see a future where the narrative changes to the women that are actually examples of how you pull the rest of the women community up. I think secondly, I see a future where things are not being made special for us just because we are women, but things are made special for us because we are great human beings, or we are just human beings that are doing excellent work. We are good at our jobs that we are doing. We are doing amazing things in the different spaces that we hold. Not us expecting that certain special provisions are going to be made or certain accommodations are going to be made simply because we are women. There's a lot of work that has been done, and I think we now need to be a little bit more confident that we do have a great future. We do have a lot of women that can rise to positions where we've not seen them in the past. And if as women, we don't have this faith in other women, we are never going to make it. And I don't want to talk too much about, politics because that's not my space, but you just hear when people talk about, we need a female president in South Africa. tell me how many women you've spoken to that have said, I believe Pam can do it. I believe Jeannie can do it. I don't care that she might not have this or she might not have that, but I'm willing to back her. I don't think there's a lot of us that do that. And I think we are just our own worst enemy when it comes to that. And I think we need to be shifting. So that's the future that I envisioned for women in general.
Yeah.
But more in corporate.
Yes.
I want to see more women in all the positions that matter.
Yeah.
I think it's time that women stopped being, just, and I say relegated, not out of disrespect because I love my profession.
Yes.
But I almost feel like people will move you to HR or corporate affairs or some marketing.
Yes.
When it comes to finance, to sales, to, commercial, to supply chain, where the big decisions are being made.
Yes.
It's almost like there's not really a belief yet, sufficient belief that women can actually lead in those spaces.
Yes.
So a world where we sit as equals on the boardroom table is a world that I think is coming. And I think there's a lot of women that needs to be given credit for working hard to make that happen. I mean, you with this podcast and the amount of exposure, there's other people that are doing similar work that are profiling women that can actually take some of these roles. I think that's a world that I would love to see if we live long enough to see it. But I think we can do something in our respective spaces to make small changes even now. So if you are not asking the questions in your organization currently, whoever's listening or watching, and you are in a position of recruitment, and you are not the one challenging and saying, why is your slate not 50-50? Why is your slate not representative? That's a question you should be asking. You might not get to make the final decision, but start the question. Ask, don't just accept that Pam is the hiring manager and Pam wants only these profiles. Ask the question, and until we get into that habit of taking small actions that collectively build up to something good, to something transformational, I think that's the role that I see women playing every single day to get the change that we want to see. It might not happen in our lifetime, but I think every day if we take a small step today and tomorrow and the next day, and the three of us taking these steps collectively, will get to somewhere. Even if we don't get to reap the fruits of these trees that we are planting, but let's plant the trees. And let's not wait for the men to plant the trees for us, because you know what's going to happen.
Oh, to our listeners and our viewers, I hope you now see why I invited these two powerhouses today to have this really critical discussion on the ability to be. So as we close, Jeannie, right, the ability to be. Last points. I'm not going to ask you a question. The ability to be, a Women's Month. Last points.
No, thanks. I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity, Pam. The ability to be, all I want to say is, women, you have the ability to be, regardless of where you come from, regardless of the life that you've been through, you have the ability to be, and you will be if you want to be. So I think people like you are really going to bring a lot of change in this world. So please keep doing what you're doing. I'm really encouraged, and just keep going, girl. You're doing great work.
Thank you. The ability to be, Cebile.
Hard to follow Jeannie after she said, just be, because it's just perfect to summarize it like that and just be. But I think for any of the women listening, one, don't shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you to begin with. When you show up in a place, show up as Pam, show up as Genie, show up as Cebile, because that's something that you have control over. When you start trying to shrink yourself so that you can fit in, you're giving other people the power then to dictate what you should be.
Yes.
And I think that for me is very important.
Yeah.
I said earlier that start investing in knowing who you are, where you come from, everything about who you are, so that you understand when you are being asked to shrink yourself so that you fit into a space that you shouldn't be shrinking yourself to fit into.
Yes.
Then you will know, because you will know that this is not me, and therefore this doesn't work for me.
Yes.
Number 2, there is so much power in the collective female, whatever you want to call it, in an organization or ecosystem, right?
Yes.
The moment you look at another woman and you see competition, you've lost so much. You've lost an opportunity to learn. You've lost an opportunity to find a sister. You've lost an opportunity to find somebody that can connect you to somebody else, because then you suddenly close yourself to the possibilities because you're seeing somebody that's there to take something away from you. I think I would encourage, when you go to an organization or you're going to wherever, embrace the people that you find there. Don't look at them as your competition. Look at them as your biggest assets in terms of your network that you are building, and whatever else that you want to achieve. They can open so many doors for you. And all of us need to come with that mindset. I'm not your competition. You're not my competition. I think as women, if we can just think of that, and then finally, invest in your growth and your development. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to come and do it for you. Whether you want that promotion, it's not going to be handed on a silver platter. Whether you want a sponsor, I often say, look at the soccer clubs. The best performing teams get the most sponsorship. So sponsorship doesn't just come on a platter. You have to prove that I can put my name behind you, that I can put my reputation on the line for you, because you do what you say you are going to do. So that is your job. That is entirely within your control, to invest in becoming the best at what you do, becoming the best version of yourself, whether it's physical goals that you have, mental well-being goals that you have. If I could spend that money that I was spending those many years ago on whiskey, now I spend that money on therapy, and I spend less now on therapy, because I've gotten so many tools to deal with life's challenges, because life has challenges. So you need to make the choice whether you want to spend your money, walking there with our Johnny walk, or you want to spend your money investing in other things that enrich your life and that bring you happiness and that bring you joy. Don't put all of those things in anybody's hands but your own. I think those for me, in a nutshell, how I would like to close, and then to say thank you to you and the team that brings this podcast, to life. And I'm happy that I finally made it onto the podcast. It's taken quite some time, long overdue. And thank you, and continue. And I wish you all the best. That this podcast grows, because I think the conversations you are having, the space you are giving women to come and share some powerful stories. I didn't know Genie until this podcast, and now I know somebody else who has an amazing, inspiring story, who's overcome so much to build a beautiful life, a life that still has challenges, but beautiful and joyous nonetheless. And that's what I think all of us want in life. So thank you.
To our listeners and viewers, episode 16, Pamela Klaba with Cebile and Jeannie Myeni on the ability to be this Women's Month. So if you missed this episode, you need to make sure that you find it and you listen to it, because it's so enriching. And thank you so much for your beautiful stories, beautiful journeys of overcoming challenges and the ability to be who you are today. Thank you very much. On that note, so let me just exercise my bragging rights. So this Women's Month, I had really the opportunity of engaging with 4 inspirational women. So over and above Cebile and Jeannie Myeni, I also want to say shout out to Elsa B. Boyens, as well as Tembi Mahlope, who came through on the previous episode 15, also with the series This Women's Month on the ability to be. I'm out. Bye. Franklin Covey South Africa actually does is really around leadership development.
Okay.
And developing leaders at all levels, instilling greatness, instilling habits of effectiveness in people, which I thought, it's funny how the universe works, to your point that when you get into certain spaces, you then start attracting like-minded people. You start attracting those things that you really needed, because what I really needed at that time to boost my confidence and to boost my self-esteem, again, because as you can understand, coming out of a corporate environment, then you're on your own. Sometimes your self-esteem can take a knock, right? And I was like, oh, okay, actually there's someone who believes that, someone who holds such a big brand, they believe that I'm doing great work. But what also stood out for me was, I really needed to polish up my leadership, some of my leadership traits as well. In terms of letting go of some of self-limiting habits, self-limiting thoughts, self-limiting behaviors. How do I show up in my full self? And the more I got into the Franklin Covey content, it's, when you get those aha moments and you get that thing that says, you know what, I'm in the right space. And I'm just really particularly excited that, more and more people then will get to experience the great work that Franklin Covey does, because it really, it's a confidence booster.
Yes.
That's what it has done for me, because people are like, oh, actually you associated with this big brand. Yeah, then immediately that lifts your self-esteem, that lifts your confidence, but also knowing that I can help other people, right, who may be